Greetings tonight, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to sound the crown chakra frequency for you. Because we are going to talk about higher frequencies and different planes of existence that are not quite here on Earth right now, but I want you to suspend your belief with me. I want you to believe in the impossible, the most beautiful, most magical world that you can think of in your reality. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I want you to celebrate life with me today. So this video, I think, is one of the most important videos that I will probably ever make, because to me, it symbolizes a benchmark that humanity has reached. And so I am so excited to do this video tonight. It has been coming. It has been something that I have been working through in order to bring this forward. And everything is just going to make so much sense if you yourself love the fairies, if you yourself love magic, if you yourself feel very pulled towards a higher civilization that can exist on Earth. And what some people don't know, because they just might not be looking in that direction. And in fact, I was so busy with my own life and with other things that I didn't even know what was going on right beneath my very nose. But I want to tell you that humanity has reached a benchmark that I am very excited about, because to me, it is about harnessing the wisdom of the elves, the fairies, bringing that to Earth in order to understand nature on an extremely deeper level than just the surface level that what humanity might have experienced in the past. It is technology that has allowed you to go deeper into nature in a way that the fairies experience nature themselves. Because the thing about the fairies is that they represent these elemental spirits that understand each plant, each flower, each animal very uniquely and for their specific uses. So what's so exciting right now is this very idea that humanity's scientists have basically been able to go deeper into the micro level of nature and discover all the same type of energetic secrets, the spiritual secrets that is contained in fairy about nature and about what each plant and each animal and everything represents. And a bigger, larger picture is being formed. So this is why this video is so important to me, because this shows exactly a particular pathway that humanity can take, and that it is a possibility. So I want you to celebrate with me. So thank you so much for joining in. And I hope that you enjoy this kind of presentation I put together. This is really going to be about an exploration with me further into nature and understanding it at the fundamental levels and how it will power our world, it will inspire technology and inventions, and it will create a that very much looks like a magical one that many people have maybe thought of when they have read books and been pulled into this fantasy world about, witches and wizards and magical creatures being able to make things happen instantly. Well, that's technology, because magic is the wielding of that energy, the wielding of energetic forces in this universe, being able to do and manipulate matter at your will. And so humans have now basically at the very forefront of this technology, have discovered how to do this, how to create an actual instantaneous type of magical reality that manifests before your very eyes. And it's because it's through energy, through manipulating energy, not in a bad or evil way, but in a collaborative way, a way that is working with the universe in the spirit of life and progression, for the abundance, the happiness, and the peace for all souls on earth. This is a possible path that I am going to show you that humanity can take. Of course, it is not all up to me, but if you believe in it enough, if you see it in your mind's eye, and you move your energy and your intentions towards that path, I guarantee that you will experience it someday. That's how energy works in this universe. Once you discover the secrets that are right on the other side of the veil, the unseen energies, the energies that we are made of, and how to work with those energies. Nature is energy, but it's energy in a highly intelligent, designed way. Designed by an intelligent designer before space-time, whatever you want to call it, be it God, universal consciousness, something beyond and what cannot be known. It holds the key to the most intelligent designs that humanity has right now to be able to research millions of species that work differently. This is the answer to all inventions in the future, to all ways of combating climate change, to living in harmony with the elements. This is the way that many advanced beings that you may think of, talk to, communicate to, feel deep within that you come from, this is how they live. Nature is key. Working with the nature on your particular planet, understanding it at the very fundamentals, and then being able to make advanced technology that works almost like magic is how you live in harmony with both nature and advanced technology. All technology must mimic nature at the very core. It cannot just be circuits, cannot just be flat spaces imagined by humans. It must contain an intelligence there. So we're going to have fun and go deeper into nature. And all of these things have been basically researched by other scientists. So I'm just giving you this information, and hopefully it just kind of starts this quest for more knowledge. I want you to get so excited about nature with me tonight that it makes you want to learn about every single animal and plant to the very core of its cellular level, understanding how it functions and how you can use that beautiful, intelligent design in order to create buildings, materials, flying spacecrafts, or just cars, and basically creating your entire environment and your home to live on. This is the potential that nature has. It is a teacher. It is a teacher for the best way of life, basically for humanity to live. I say that with a biasness, I know, but I'm telling you that when you hear about this, and when you go further into your research on a cellular level of nature, sorry, I'm very excited. I hope you can feel this energy coming out of me. I mean, this is a benchmark in humanity, and it's just extremely exciting. But I want to inspire you to have the knowledge of the elves and the fairies. And what this means is to understand how everything works on a very energetic level and on a very specific level to each particular plant and each particular animal. You can have fun for your entire life learning about it. That's how much there is to learn. So if this is something that's fun for you, as it is for me, then I hope that you enjoy this. This video was inspired by a couple of things. First off, I want to tell you my dream that I had the other day. I had this dream that I never had before. And it reminded me later on, when I thought about it, it reminded me of this thing that Terence McKenna mentioned. He was a philosopher, he was a psychonaut, he was somebody that was very intelligent on Earth, and he really helped to bring forward kind of a new strain of consciousness thinking. And he was very, very involved in nature and trying to bring in kind of called the Green Anarchy, in which humans would reconnect to nature after the industrial Bronze Age, all those types of ways of doing things, making things, building things with fire. You know, when fire first came to humanity, everything was just burnt. You know, we burn things to make coal. We burn things in these smokestacks. We burn things in order to create. Well, there's other ways of using the elements without just burning things, creating carbon dioxide in the air. So Terence McKenna was one that basically was starting this type of revolution in a way, a movement, I think. I think that there were many more scientists that were involved with this, but he kind of brought the idea out in a philosophical idea and level to the public that what we can do is learn by nature, be inspired, and understand that at the fundamentals of the universe, there are things that we call machine elves. At least that's what he experienced. And what machine elves are is it is a synergy of machine and organic life, elves. And what that entails is that the idea that ultimately the purpose of technology is to merge with organic life. So the technology is the creation of man or another species that creates something on their own. But as soon as they unlock the keys to nature, understanding at the fundamental levels of how a plant works, how an animal moves, and things like that, without harming them, it's about observation only. So this is the most wonderful thing. You could just sit there and observe them in their environment, and you can also have them perform tasks without ever hurting them. And if you wanted to look deeper into them, you would take, well, the ones that already have passed on natural causes and ways. So this is the most beautiful thing, is that you're not harming nature in this way of observing it. So what Terence McKenna was saying is that machine elves were these entities that basically were the synergy of both inorganic and organic. And these are the kind of two matters that exist in a way of what we see in our physical reality. Something organic and inorganic, something that just came on its own, a product of nature over evolution of many, many, millions of years, versus inorganic that is created in a way that speeds up time, a way that is about your creation as a human. So this synergy is what the machine elves are. So the machine elves, to Terence McKenna, who was very deeply connected to nature, saw that this is basically the pinnacle of a species or a collective in their understanding of moving in and understanding how things work on a quantum level of energy. And what the machine elves really were these bouncing elves in nature that were showing him how to create just with his words, like magic or singing, to create with his hands, his movements in his hands. So he had this really magical, mystical experience. Well, my dream wasn't as much like that because I was not under that influence, but it was a dream about there were elves and gnomes and fairies in a forest opening, and they were darting in and out of the dimensions. So they were popping in and then out and in and out and in and out and going through different holes in the ground. And they were smiling and laughing and going, hee, hi. You can imagine. And it was a very happy, playful, really beautiful, joyful experience for me to see this on Earth in my dream. And it was just only for a few seconds that I saw it, but to me, it was a message that they are behind the scenes. They are working through with this energy of humanity, trying to get to this place of reconnection to nature. And so it's done in a way of enchantment and magic, and bringing in this idea of reconnecting to nature, not just on a surface level of understanding how beautiful nature is and how amazing it is, but understanding how amazing it is on a very micro level, and understanding how it works by all of its attributes and qualities and different characteristics. And this is what the fairies know. And this is why they govern different plants and different flowers. And these are the spirits of the archetypes of nature and in the elements. So this was inspired by him, basically, through this way. And I think that this dream was just a continuation of basically all of this is happening right now in humanity. So 2 quotes I want to tell you. First one is a quote from Arthur C. Clarke, one of my favorite sci-fi authors. "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Now I want you to think about that. So he wrote a lot of sci-fi novels and ideas, like Childhood's End is one of my favorite. And when a species gets to a point of advanced technology, it is indistinguishable to the magic that we think of with wizards and magical creatures. We ourselves become the sorcerers. We ourselves become those wizards. And we see our magic manifest before our very eyes in the idea that we are wielding this type of energy that connects through connecting our consciousness to something that is very much an intelligent type of consciousness that can move and collaborate with us. So this is how a world starts to look in a very modern, advanced way, where you walk into a room and all the lights go on, where you can just look at a door and the door slides open. This is how Lothlorien is described in Tolkien's stories in Lord of the Rings. For you who have read the Lord of the Rings, you really get into the details of the realms. You can see this advanced technology that exists. And so Tolkien might call it magic, but what you might want to see in reality of what it can be is really advanced technology working with the fundamental laws of the energies of the universe and understanding them on a quantum level. And so this is where humanity is basically heading. And so we're getting to this point. We are basically at the very start of it. What I have seen, and why I'm going to go through all of this here, in the early 2000s, we're starting to see this in universities, mostly universities. It's engineer students, those who are bio engineers, bioscientists, those that study a way to build inventions and things like that that can help humanity. What they are doing is they are observing nature. Now, this very idea is called biomimetrics. And biomimetrics had basically started out from Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci observed the flight of birds. And he would draw birds and he would just look and study nature as much as he could. And what he was able to do was to take the way that the birds flew and basically how they would actually move their wings. And he was inspired to create the very first flying machine, which later on became the plane. Well, here's the thing. Because mankind has become disconnected from nature after the Stone Age, the Industrial Age, well, Stone Age, Bronze Age, Industrial Age, these types of experiences have pulled humanity away from nature in many ways. And what they have done is they have created things that are without the intelligence of nature. Okay, so what I want you to think of is how a plane is today. A plane is simply just flat straightforward, and it just glides. Well, in universities right now, they are experimenting with building the very first prototypes of the new generations of planes. And what do they look like? They look like birds' wings. They actually have flexible appendages. They have a way of actually curving down, curving up, helping them with flight patterns. Birds are incredible. The way that they can move their individual appendages on their wings in order to change their different flight patterns. If you ever watch a bird, they're not just straightforward. They actually curve and they move their wings in many different ways. So this is what inspires, if you are into UFOs and ideas about flying, spacecrafts, this is what inspires an advanced species in order to make those types of flying contraptions, flying cars, but on a higher advanced level. You must use nature in order to really get them off the ground, because nature has that intelligent design for aerodynamics in a way that the human mind cannot think of on its own. And we are made of nature ourselves. So it is about this relationship growing back towards our roots and merging back with our original origins, which is nature. When we are designing technology, we must keep nature in mind in this way. And so what I wanted to do first, before going through all of the different inventions to get you really excited, I did have a few questions throughout my channel, also emailed to me too, because I've been heading in this direction. I've been very open about this, sure. I resonate with the elves, I resonate with the fairies, but yet I'm also very futuristic thinking. I'm also thinking about technology. I'm also thinking about things that maybe are more for an advanced world rather than maybe the early days of humanity, more in the earth-based civilizations, which I believe that we need to incorporate that wisdom. But now we have technology that we also have to incorporate, because this is the time and age that we're in. So it's not about a rebellion against technology. It's about moving in flow and improving the design of technology so that it incorporates and merges nature now into technology, so that that ushers in the new technological age, which will ultimately enter into the golden age of mankind, where mankind will live in a way that's more abundant, more efficient, and will bring in more a feeling of not so much struggle, toil, and pain on Earth. There's going to be a relief of that. And if you can alleviate the suffering of man, then that's basically what people who are in service to others do. So this is what these scientists, these bioscientists, and those that are learning about nature and observing it so that they can apply it to the technology of the future are doing. They are in great service to humanity. We should never be afraid of those who are scientists and those that are actually learning about nature on a very fundamental, deep level, which is really beautiful to me. And I understand what they are doing. So the questions that I got was, do you believe that human consciousness will ever merge with machines? So my answer to that is no, I don't. And here's why. Scientists cannot even understand what consciousness is. And advanced beings, in all of their messages, even downloads that I receive, being somebody that identifies as a starseed and very much thinking about the future and in touch with that, consciousness is still a very enigmatic idea that I believe is really only known when you leave the physical plane. So your answers really come to you about what consciousness really is when you leave from the physical plane. We are here in the physical experience, in the material world, to just basically experience ourselves as consciousness, to experience ourselves as awareness and going through our life and experiencing what we do. But in order to actually understand exactly what consciousness is, I do not think that mankind will ever get to that point but they can get very close to understanding how the different ways that matter works in the universe and energy. And that's exactly what scientists are doing right now. But consciousness is different. Consciousness is something that is the totality of all the forces in the universe, the totality of all the matter in the universe. And so it is a very, very large type of force in order to be harnessed into your creation. So what I said was this: no, consciousness is separate from our creations. Some humans may allow for body parts to be replaced with robotics to help them in life, but consciousness itself as awareness, to be able to download that, I mean, that's basically the question of what is reality? What is the nature of reality? And you're trying to put the nature of reality into an object that you create. No, I do not. I think that robots will be able to mimic and will be very close to being what we would call conscious and aware and have that type of artificial intelligence. But as far as downloading human consciousness into a robot, I think that you can get close, but it's only going to be mimicry. It's not going to be the totality of who you are, because who we are is really energy itself. And although energy can be transferred, I just believe that there's something bigger that is going on in terms of your awareness, my awareness, and what this all is. And I don't think that that's something that can really be grasped in the physical. So I hope that that helps you, because I know some people had that concern. I think for some people that's a very scary idea, that robots could replace human consciousness or could replace humans. I do not have that fear, because I have kind of started to see consciousness in this way. And so I understand consciousness is a little bit bigger than something that you could just download into an object that you create, even if it mimics nature in design, even if it has the personality of a dog and, you know, the design of leaves that can self-clean itself. It still is not going to have the totality of you, the totality of me. That's really the question of reality there in a really big way to me. We are awareness ourselves. We are creation ourselves. The Pleiadian messages, if you ever want to listen to them, I have 2 original ones from 1975 on my channel for this very reason. The Pleiadians have gotten to that point where they understand consciousness is something that is creation itself. Okay, so this is a very large idea, but if you listen to those videos, maybe it will help you. Another question is there any cautions within you that you sense as humanity heads towards a world of advanced technology? My answer is yes. So Einstein had a very famous quote about the idea that he had a fear that our technology would basically surpass our humanity. Okay, so he was afraid that people would remain unawakened, unaware. Okay, and what that means is having a spiritual sense of unity and oneness with one another, and a sense of common good in this way, that they would be unaware of that state and then create technology. Well, I believe that humanity's awakening and consciousness shift in many people, and especially in spiritual scientists that you see that are working on these things, and as long as we have these people working in this way, that are very aware and, you know, in their own way have kind of a spiritual connection to a nature of reality, then I do believe that we will be okay. And that in many ways, I believe that we have moved past Einstein's very fear that in some way all of humanity would be behind technology. That's not true. That's not true at all. We've had a huge consciousness shift. So it's actually a minority that still remains kind of asleep. That's what I have seen. I mean, that's basically been my experience. So each of you can have your own experience and perception of the world and what you have observed in your life. But I am very connected to spiritual communities. I'm very connected to people that are psychonauts, those that are transversing consciousness and awareness, and that are really questioning things in a very deep philosophical way. So these people exist, and I have met so many of you, and many of you are members to my channel and you subscribed, and I love that you're here with me on this journey. And so my experience and observation of reality has been, no, we have surpassed that point of concern. We just have to make sure that those that are in these places of corporations in terms of decisions of electronics and that kind of way, that they also are in that same state. But from what I have seen through many documentaries that have gone to these universities and have watched these students and professors and those that are developing different inventions for the world, they are basically very much normal people having their experience, and they're highly intelligent to be able to design something that could mimic nature in this way. And I do believe that they would be somebody that we can trust. And I think that's a lot what humanity is going to have to do with each other. And this is about working like nature. Working like nature with each other is about collaboration. It's about understanding that you're part of a larger ecosystem and each one of you has a particular role. And so when you awaken to the state of nature within yourself, you're going to have more trust in humanity as a whole. You will. Because that's the spirit of nature coming through and understanding it at a fundamental level of how it actually works, how it has survived for billions of years, and all these different species have thrived, and how they have lived together and in harmony with the elements. So humanity has a lot to learn from nature itself in this way, and I think one of those things that we can learn is trust. So no, I do not think that we have that same problem that Einstein was afraid of. I will say the nuclear bombs still is a concern. There is no need to have nuclear bombs on any type of planet, because if you are trying to war with each other, you do not want to destroy your environment. You want to focus on just the individual that you're warring with. The problem with nuclear bombs is that they create genetic mutations around the species and the environment and humans that live in that area and environment for many generations. Hiroshima is a good example of that. We have seen in Chernobyl that nature has come back into that space. Humans are not allowed to go at all, but nature has found a way to survive through that radiation, although it might be a little changed. On a simple organism level, there could be some genetic mutations that will affect evolution and species of evolutions in the next generations. So this is something to think about with nuclear bombs. You are dealing with nuclear energy. There's no need to have weapons of that massive power on Earth. And I do believe it is a cautionary tale from times that we think of about Atlantis and Lemuria. You know, those of us who are in these spiritual communities and have thought about these other civilizations, not even in spiritual communities, but those in understanding philosophy. Plato has talked about Atlantis. Okay, so this is something that I believe is a cautionary tale about past civilizations and their quest for power, not only power for manifestation, but power to dominate and control one another. So that is my only caution with this, is that if we use technology for weapons to destroy each other, we're going to destroy each other and this world and this home that we live on. So that is definitely my caution there. Also, if we are creating technology and we're disconnected from nature, that is another concern. Like I said, with the plane, if you're creating a plane with just straight gliding type of aerodynamics, you're not going to get the types of flight patterns that spacecrafts can do, advanced UFOs that people have been seeing and that are reported in the Navy as actually really truly being here. The reason why they can move like that is because they are inspired by nature, the way that nature itself has moved butterflies dragonflies, flies, birds, and many other different types of species from their other planets too. So that's something to keep in mind, and how you actually create those types of advanced types of spacecrafts in that way. So it's all about just putting our focus on nature, mimicking it, understanding it at the fundamental levels, and then being able to live in a more abundant, peaceful world that really is in harmony with your technology. Another question, last one before we get into some of the fun discoveries I have made. How does an advanced world connect to Tolkien's elves or fairy? So this has come to me a few times, and I think it's because people are trying to work out the connection. And what it is that when you go into the stories of J.R.R. Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and you look deeper into the Elven realms themselves, you might have to go into the Lost Tales and things like that to get really deep into the Elven realm description and the way that the elves lived. You start to see that they didn't live in a way that maybe ancient farmers did on Earth. Okay, there was a type of magic that is more practically explained by Tolkien himself. In terms of the Fëanorian lamps, they are the lights that you see behind me in Lothlorien. They are a type of crystal that glows and that creates this light. So Lothlorien is not powered by electricity. It is powered by this source of electricity, this source of light and frequency and basically sound waves that can power itself without actually using up a lot of energy. So it's more efficient, more eco-sustainable, as many people would call it. This is the type of realm that basically Tolkien was suggesting. One that does not take from nature, does not waste, does not use in excess what it takes, and it uses the technology that is around nature and uses it to its highest capability and potential. And so in their weapons, in the elves' weapons, they have glowing swords that alert them when the orcs are here. Well, that's because it's from the Fëanorian crystals that you see powering up Lothlorien. They are also hammered, welded into the weapons that they contain as well. So this is a really advanced way of thinking about protecting a civilization, is using this kind of crystal technology. Also, Lothlorien doors, they open up on their own. There are no guards. So there is this type of network that basically powers their land. And so things move and things are moving on their own. So this is advanced technology. This is what we see on a very basic level when you go into a grocery store and the doors slide open. Okay, so it's a very simple way of seeing this, but it's more of a beautiful way because it's mimicking nature, and you see that in the natural environment. And that's what's so enchanting about Lothlorien, is that it is this advanced world or is advanced realm, but at the same time, it is also in nature. It is using the intelligence of nature, and it merges with nature harmoniously so that it does not destroy nature, and you can live for thousands of years with never harming the climate because you're constantly working in harmony with it, which is the goal. That is the ultimate goal of this species in order to really be able to survive for many, millions of years, however long that's left. If you want to survive millions of years, then you have to live in harmony with nature. You have to live in harmony with the climate and with the weather, and understanding the patterns of it and understanding what nature needs at the very core. So we are in very exciting times. I do believe that we are getting to this point. So scientists can be inspired with the spirit of fairy. And the idea of fairies, like I said, they basically know everything about plants and animals. So scientists are basically working like fairies and elves, an idea that they are going deeper into nature and understanding it at the core. Now, this is not about experimentation in a way. This is about observation. So there is a difference here. This is about biotechnology, bioscientists, the ones that are actually into biology, and then they apply that information into technology. So it's a new field, and it's one that is growing, and it's one that is going to be very, very good for the advancement of this world. So the whole point of this is that Earth is really 4 billion years old, and humanity is not that old, although there is an idea that humanity has come from the stars and other solar systems, and so they have existed for a very long time. And my opinion is that we are infinite consciousness and awareness, and we manifest in different physical forms, and we fly around basically the universe and the cosmos, and we experience ourselves in different ways. But that's just my interpretation of things. But what I wanted to say with all of that is that there is a way of experiencing yourself evolving. And so humanity is experience itself as only 2,000 years old. That's the consensus. But the Earth itself is billions of years old. So nature in its essence, since it is older and it has gone through its evolutionary stages and process of thriving and changing, nature is the teacher to humanity. That is the only way that basically humans can really learn to progress themselves and to really advance themselves to the level and to live as long as, basically nature has in many ways. So as I was saying about the flight patterns is really inspired by birds, and that is one of the first ways that we see that was starting to be thought of in humanity with Leonardo da Vinci, with his, like I said, his little flying model. So at Florida State University, they are now working with things called robo-gulls, which are radio-controlled models of planes that behave more like bird wings. So it is the new generation of planes that they are working on. These are all prototypes. So this is important that we support these inventions, we look towards them with optimism, and we present them to our governments. We present them to these institutions in society that can put forth these inventions for the public. And I know that it really has to start with the inventors themselves through a patent, and these companies get funded and sponsored. But in many ways, if the public knows, they can put pressure on having these types of inventions in the world in a faster way. Wings can change when they fly, making their shape and flight pattern differently, as I was talking about with the appendages. And so there's really this incredible way of looking at the bird on a very deep level of understanding wing warping, which is where birds' wings actually warp up and down, not the whole wing, but just part of the wing up and down. They warp. So this flap comes up and they warp. And what they're doing is they're playing with the wind pressure itself. And it's a highly technological way of basically the bird's brain working, because even inventors and engineers have really found out that it's a very complex mechanism. The way that the bird's wings work and the way that the bird's brain works, that is basically connected to the movement of the wing instantaneously, is a lot of work for a machine. But eventually they will get there. I do have faith in that. And that's because evolution itself has basically turned the bird's brain over time into an ultra-fast control system. It's on board with a computer, basically, of how it works in terms of sending the messages through the body, through electrical impulses, sending those messages to work in this really complex way that our most advanced planes can't even work at right now at this point. But if we take that inspiration from nature, that's how we get to that next level of our flying crafts that we truly want to see, more so than just planes. And they will allow us to have more of an exploration of space too. If we can be inspired in the way that birds can maneuver through any kind of obstacle. So when it comes through, flying through space and there's meteor showers and things like that, or just particles, from other planets or other celestial bodies that have broken off, well, then that spacecraft that is inspired by bird's flight patterns and a bird's flight can actually move and maneuver and dodge those obstacles. So it's not just about having a shield, it's also about having technology that moves in a way where it senses danger, it senses. All animals have this ability where they can sense something coming. And that's the most amazing thing, and kind of what elves represent in many ways. Tolkien described it this way. We hear this in fairy folklore too, the idea that elves and fairies have this way of sensing beforehand what is going to happen. It's because they have heightened sensory abilities and skills. They hear sharper, they sense things on an energetic level, or within them, they sense it, like they sense the energy or vibrations and frequencies of those around them. That's how insects actually work. That's how other types of mammals work, in terms of basically being able to dodge anything and any obstacle. So the inspirations for new innovations really is about learning from nature. And the most wonderful thing is that a scientist could basically go into a garden and observe everything in a garden in terms of all of the different plant life, the flowers, the little critters and the insects and everything else that lives there, and the birds and all the other animals. And it can take them a whole lifetime to try to apply that technology into machines, into an intelligent design of invention for humanity, for more efficient life. And this is something that gives scientists to work on. This is a lifelong type of way of looking at it. Basically, what we are entering into with humanity in terms of understanding nature at a fundamental level is that we are entering into this place where we will never be bored. We're going to have a lot to research. There is over 1 million species of different types of animals and insects and things that we can look at. And that does not include the plant life. So we have so much within our potential right here to research. This is a library of wealth of knowledge and information. And if we can just pay attention to it all, we will have all the secrets of advanced technology in this world that we really need to see. And it is just going to be incredible. I mean, I have tears just thinking about the potential that is there. And I hope that you feel that too within you. And then it somehow drives you towards, this path, taking this in your own way, maybe going into these fields. We need these types of people that have this mind to actually merge nature with technology. This is what this world needs. So I'm hoping that I inspire some, younger souls, maybe who have not even had a career choice yet, to decide to place their service into humanity in this way, be part of the Green Anarchy in a way where it's about bringing in nature into technology and never allowing, human engineers and technologists to ever forget it. So flies actually have inspired drones, and at least, they're starting to. And the fly has a whole other system or aerodynamics than the birds do. So they move faster, and their wings actually move in different ways. So whereas the bird joints move up and down and have different ways of kind of working with the pressure, and they rotate as well. And they rotate in a way of bringing in the shape of basically a wind tunnel that can push the air around and create great flight. Well, flies work in a different way. They don't go up and down. They move in a very different way, where they're actually moving their wings in a total circle, in a rotation, forming a huge vortex around their wings. So this is a way where we can use small flying things to actually service humanity in a way where providing the service that they need. Drones can search out those that are lost, those that are, lost in the wilderness and needing supplies. Drones have been used to help after, natural disasters and to bring in supplies. This is something that has been thought of. This is something that can be inspired, but the movement of the fly is basically what has started this thinking about drones. The way that we see flies moving around, darting around so fast, and ships, spacecrafts. When people see orbs or different types of spacecrafts that move at different angles and in all different ways, well, that's the way that a fly can move. That is the way that they have this ability to maneuver themselves in different ways and can actually move and angle their body and go off in different flight patterns. It's just incredible when you think about all the diversity that exists within all the different types of flying creatures that we have on Earth. We basically have the blueprints for our UFOs, our flying crafts, and our flying cars that we want to use to move around freely on Earth and enjoy, and also to explore space. We have the blueprints for that type of flight. And it's incredible to think about that that's our potential. Dragonflies and butterflies can inspire too. They can help in the same way, like little small service machines or things that we need in humanity and to get to us in a certain way. But they can also inspire different forms of flight. For those that really love the sea, those of you who really want to live under the sea and things like that, there's a lot of beings that sometimes we think of that have these types of civilizations where they can live in the water. Sea elves are often talked about, Syrians, and those that live in a place where it's constantly a state of water around them. Well, there are now technologies that can allow you to basically swim as fast as a shark. There are shark skin suits. They are not made of shark skin at all. What they have observed is that the shark's skin has a different texture to it that allows for air pockets to exist to trap the water underneath when it moves, to create less resistance while it swims, meaning it cuts out the time that it takes to go through the water. That's why a shark can move so fast. So those of you who love to swim and things like that and can think of moving in that kind of way, this is the kind of potential of humanity that you can see, and it can be used in boats, submarines, and those types of crafts that need to get to places that are down below in the abyss, need to swim past the pressure. Well, sharks and other types of creatures sea creatures that have a way of building up that pressure and that resistance of the water. If we learn from them, we can move to those abyss and those deep places in the ocean and learn so much more about this world. We just have to mimic nature and understand it. And then we can create things that allow us to live there, to experience our world and our civilization in the water if we wanted to. Some people could go there and live. I mean, these are the possibilities. They're endless when you are inspired by nature. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And this is not something that is too far-fetched. In fact, in the Olympics in 2004, this was first used, this suit, this shark skin suit. And it did cut out time. And Michael Phelps actually wore one in 2008, but now they are basically illegal in Olympics because they just give you too much of a head in competition. So I guess everybody has to wear a shark suit, basically, if one person is going to wear one. So this is just something to think about. if we want to go deep into the ocean, if we want to actually experience life in the ocean, living in the ocean in this way, and want to understand how beings on other planets might have those types of underwater civilizations, well, they do it because they mimic the water creatures. They have evolved in that way too. But if we want to mimic that, then we can get to that point where we can live as they do. So that is just something I wanted to throw in there. But, we don't have to fear. I've been seeing some really wonderful things about robotics. There are a lot more engineers that are actually creating robots in a way to mimic nature now, which is great. What they are doing is they're learning how basically insects and different animals move. They're creating movements through that way, learning how to make more of robots in a way where they act like nature. So there's a way that they're creating robots that actually act like ants. Ants are really wonderful little creatures. In fact, they live in a very community-driven type of way where they are constantly moving in synergy with each other, and they are very polite. If they bump into each other, they turn around, they help each other, they build things. And what they have discovered is that when they have created little robots that basically are programmed with the same rules, okay, so this is important too. Every species on Earth has their own society rules in a way. They have developed this way where they just kind of live this way. It's unspoken rules. They don't have a form of government, but they have a way and a behavior of being with one another. So ants are a good example of this. They are very collaborative and they work together, and they can walk all over each other, but they really don't hurt each other because they move away. So what they have found is that when they program robots in this way to act like ants, they're actually very polite. They bump into each other and they kind of turn around and they go the other way. They don't just go through each other. So you can make something that's as strong as a robot with its machinery and also be as polite as an ant. So this is a really beautiful idea. And what I was actually thinking, we can even go further and program it to be as loyal to humans as a dog, in terms of learning from the behavior of the dog. The dog has always been by the side of man since the beginning of time. So if we want to have robots in a way that is going to be a collaborative partner with us in our world and in helping us create a more advanced civilization, then they need to mimic the dog. They need to mimic an animal, a creature that has also been so loyal and has been of service to us for so long of a time. And so I was just thinking that, but this is a way that robots are being thought of. They're actually being thought of to mimic nature, which is a really beautiful thing, because if they just mimicked human behavior, we might have some problems because humans can be very reactionary and emotional. But animals do not have those types of emotions and reactions. They work on instinct, and they work on a way of collaborative experience through living in this food chain and living in this circle of life, basically within their ecosystem. And so if we move to program robots to act in these particular rules, and it's very easy to do because what you do is you observe different species and how they move and how they behave, and then you just put in the code for rules. You tell a computer, so instead of Google teaching a computer how to win at chess, which is kind of a dangerous thing people have thought of in a way, because when you teach a computer how to win at a game, they find ways where it's about domination and control, and it's about winning. But if you don't program it to win and you program it to work in collaboration as an ant, or be loyal as a dog, or to work like a beaver in terms of building and constructing in a way, if you program it that way with the rules of the society of the species that can mimic its behavior, that's when you will have more compassionate, empathetic type of robots that can work with humans in a way where they're non-emotional, and they work more on kind of this instinctual way And we might experience it as compassion because it might look to us that they're working with us. And the reason is because nature is basically collaborating with each other. And so we see that as a human working with animals. So if we're trying to have robots and artificial intelligence work with humans, then they must mimic animals. They must mimic nature in that way. So that's something to think about. Robots have limbs, and they're powered by electricity and wires. And nature uses muscles, and they're powered by electricity. The electricity that's running through our veins, basically from our heart, and sending the messages through our brain to move certain places. So when wires become more like veins and more like in an animal or a plant, it will be more of an organic machine. And this is the key to having that combination of organic and inorganic. It's about mimicking the way that the body works and actually creating that in another form so that it can work in the same way as a natural organic organism would. So that's just something, to think about there. And it's really exciting because that's exactly what engineers are doing. That's exactly what they're doing. So if you go deeper into your research, you will find that people are, inventing this way. Next thing I kind of wanted to talk about. Now, I only just gave you a little bit of a hint of what's going on, but you can do more research on your own in that way. But the next one is about materials and building. So this is really important for the infrastructure of a planet. How do we want our cities to look? How do we want the design to look? Well, I would love it to look like Lothlorien. I would love it to look like Rivendell. I would love it to be elegant, but also advanced modern technology that is coexisting and harmonious with nature too. And this is kind of my vision of what an advanced infrastructure can look like on this planet. So it's important to start using the materials that are already in nature because they are the most strongest, the most supportive, and they are the most elegant materials that exist right now. And I'll give you some examples. There are actual materials that are stronger than steel. They have mimicked a way of how wood works. There are many different ways of using wood, and animals have discovered ways. Wasps, what they do is they basically chew up wood pulp with a mix of saliva, and then they create their homes with that. And that's what you get, this beautiful wooden structure, basically, that's like thin, like cardboard. It's not even solid. It's solid, but it's not hard. Well, we can create wood in this way by learning how that chemical composition of that saliva is in the wasp, and understanding how they are able to make structures that withstand, just the natures and the elements, basically. And this is how we make really supportive, strong buildings that are actually made with eco-friendly materials that does not destroy our planet. So there are other ways that they're doing this. Instead of cutting down trees, which would be eventually what we would want to get to, cutting down as less trees as we could, they are starting to create a resin that mimics the patterns within wood. Because what they have found on a very cellular level, basically looking at wood, very deep level, they have found that wood is basically strong and supportive of all of the weight and the height because of its structure within. It has tiny coils that basically act as springs and hold on to the support system of the entire trunk. So what they can do is they can mimic synthetic or artificial kind of resin-like material and use the pattern of wood in order to be as strong and as stable as wood and look as beautiful as wood, but it wouldn't be wood, and it would be still eco-friendly because you're still using a type of resin that would be biodegradable. So this is an incredible way that they're thinking of how to actually use the materials found in nature and use it in a way that's going to actually build our world, in a more advanced way. Bioengineers and designers and architects are observing what animals are using to build their own structures to live in. Not only is the goal to copy nature, but it's also to improve upon nature in a way where nature already itself is very intelligently designed. It's perfect. It's the original source of everything. But humanity has a way where they can then synthesize. So they can take the idea from one structure, one nature material, and then merge it into another and create something together that is maybe stronger. I mean, this is the potential that humanity has once they start really getting into the depths of nature in this way. So also, instead of just being strong, it's important for material to be smarter. Self-cleaning mechanisms are very important in terms of maybe helping humanity stay more hygienic, more of a cleaner environment and world, and not have the manual labor of doing the cleaning all the time. But it is a self-cleaning mechanism that plants have. One thing that they're noticing is that lotus leaves are actually being used and inspired because they have this way of having a type of structure on in their plant cellular level, basically, that is like little tiny bumps, irregular bumps. And what it does is that when water splashes on the leaf, the water cannot dissipate, or it cannot move and lie flat, return to its original shape. What it does is it stays in a sphere, and it bounces off. But before it bounces off, it just rolls off in a little ball, picks up the dirt with it, and rolls off. So what they're doing is they're making self-cleaning spoons now with that same type of surface. And they have done this in the University of Bonn in Germany, self-cleaning spoons. How wonderful is that? You'll never have to do the dishes once you understand how to make this structure, because it will make a way where the water itself will clean off the food. It will clean off the dirt, whatever else gets on there. So they're making materials that actually are self-cleaning in a way where they mimic the way that nature has cleaned itself and kept itself basically very clean and pure and hygienic in many ways. And this is something that you can learn from plants. Plants are the ones that have this ability to show this self-cleaning mechanism to nature, to humans. The other thing is fabric, so clothing. Okay, so vegans are going to really love this, because we're going to stop possibly having to use the fur or the hair on animals, and instead we can start using smarter material that can be constructed in a way where it mimics nature, that is like pine cones, for example. Pine cones have a way where they actually create their own ventilation. So they're created in a way where they have layers to them, and the layers actually open up and spread, and then their seeds pop out. But what also they're doing is they're allowing this ventilation to occur too when they get dried out. So clothing material has been invented in a way where they're in prototype now, where it has this type of ventilation system. So if you get really hot in your clothing, little tiny flaps just kind of open up, and then they shut back on their own. I have watched it in a documentary. It was incredible to see that. And this is the way that material can start to be used that really is more, I think, better for us, because Well, it's a smarter material. It works more with our body chemistry and allows us more comfort. And we are basically learning from the comfort of nature in a way. Mushrooms are inspiring fashion too. So mushrooms have this really soft, kind of almost like leathery type of feel. So instead of using leather from cowhide and other types of animals, we can start to use mushrooms. And mushrooms are the largest organism on Earth in terms of how many there are. So this is something that can provide clothing for all, and it can provide a very strong leather-like type of material. So we would all look like elves basically in the future if we used mushroom clothing, but I'm all about that. I would love that. Victoria lilies is something that is really neat too. What also leaves can do, so you learn about the different structures of leaf in terms of the way that the leaf is actually constructed on a cellular level, but you can also look at the structure of it, of how it supports itself. So giant lilies that are called the Victoria lilies basically sit in lagoons and on top of water. And when you look underneath them, they have this really intricate type of support system that allows for a weight of a baby to lay on top of this lily pad and basically never sink. So this inspired the Crystal Palace in London that was built in 1851. So biomimicry is something that has been around, but it's something that is just now being, I think, really thought of in universities. So this is really exciting because all universities that have fields of engineering and technology and just basically getting adults ready to go out into the world and to contribute to society, they are thinking this way. So it's really, really exciting when you really think about it. So you have no reason to really fear, because we're now moving into understanding nature on a really fundamental level, and it's just beautiful to watch. But this plant-like structure of the lilies has been used in many different buildings. And it's not only plants, but it's also the bone-like spongy material inside our own bodies that has actually inspired buildings. There is a church that that is known as the Grand Silica. I think I forgot what the name was. I did not write it down, but it's actually made to look like the structure of the human bones, but like deep inside of the actual spongy material of the bones and the webbing. And the antler of the buck is porous and spongy, and it allows for the deer to actually fight with its antlers and not really receive a lot of pressure on the head. So they're trying to learn from this beautiful, elegant structure of the antler of how to actually design buildings that might look a little like this in the future, you know, where they would have the support that could withstand high winds and any type of natural occurring types of disasters. In a way, it can actually support and not fall down. Houses fall apart all the time right now, and that's because the structure is just not there. The support is just simply basically a cube right now. So there's a lot more that is involved in actually building architecture, and the way that you could do that is by mimicking the way that our bodies look, but also how plants are actually structured and animals. So it's incredible to understand the potential of architecture that will basically build our world of what it looks like in the future. And the Eiffel Tower was actually inspired by the thigh bone, which I learned, which was incredible. So when you look at the Eiffel Tower and the way that it actually is designed, it was designed, I guess, to mimic the thigh bone. So that was a really great feat at that time when it was created. Termite mounds have something really interesting. They found that they have a natural way of having air conditioning. So they have this really strategically placed way of having shafts that create air currents and flow within their homes, their termite homes in the deserts. And so you can actually create homes that would have natural shafts and allow this air to actually come through your home. You would never have to use air conditioner. You would never have to use that type of energy again. So this is really exciting because this is, of course, more energy efficient, of course. And it could be really beautiful too, because you would have these openings in your home that would allow this draft of wind to come through every once in a while to provide a cooling down of your home. This is what termites have been able to do and what they are discovering. They have a natural air conditioning system. Cars and planes can be inspired by the different types of way that fish move. One that is being thought of right now to actually create a car, and there has been a prototype of a car, is the yellow boxfish. It's this really boxy little yellow fish that moves around, but the way that it moves is it's very structured and sturdy. And so what they have done is because cars have a problem where, you get in a crash and of course they just crumple. So they're using the skeletal system and understanding how fish basically work and move. And they're using that to be inspired to create cars. And it's a very sturdy way of basically creating a support system of a vehicle. Of course, there's other types of animals that you can learn from too, and other types of ways that they could build the structure of a moving vehicle. Shells of crabs contain this thing called chitin, and it can be this amazing alternative for plastics now. So this is very near and dear to my heart because plastics are something that is not biodegradable. Most plastics, if they're not plant-based, they will sit in a landfill for about 500 years. That's how long it takes for plastic to actually finally go back into the earth, and disintegrate, but it doesn't really fully disintegrate. And alarming, they have found plastic actually in women's wombs now, because plastic is kind of really polluting our world so much because humans have turned to plastic for a lot of things in terms of containing things. Well, there's a way to actually use discarded shells from crabs and other types of creatures, sea creatures, whatever has a shell on its back, and to be able to use to mix and to form a type of plastic that can be as strong as plastic and can work in the same way as it is flexible. They basically are eco-friendly plastic that is biodegradable, and they can be made into a biopolymer. Biopolymers are something that's being discovered because a polymer is basically a plastic. And so bio is really another alternative to that. So keep an eye on that because that would be really wonderful to have. Mollusk shells they have tiny crystals, and that's what causes this iridescence to seashells that you see. It's actually crystals. So they're able to isolate the crystal and structure within the mollusk shells and to use it to create computer chips. So computer chips right now are being designed using this technology of shells and the crystals, because crystals right now are used in electronics, but they also can be used to actually create a very powerful type of computer, because the type of crystal that exists within the mollusk shell is extremely complex, and it can actually be used to actually power a very powerful computer that humans themselves have not been able to design on their own without the inspiration from nature. The exoskeleton actually from insects is something that can inspire the way that buildings look and how they are shaped. Insects have this incredible way of hiding in flowers, and what they can do with their exoskeleton, because they're usually hard shells, but they're flexible. There's a type of structure within them that they can move around and kind of contort their shapes. There's different types of mantises that can actually hide inside of a flower. And the way that they hide inside of a flower is they actually contort their body into the shape of the flower, the petal. So what they're starting to understand is that the structure of the exoskeleton of the insect can actually create really beautiful nature-inspired types of buildings that can take different types of shapes than just boxes and squares, basically. So they can get a lot more angled and a lot more intricate in their design. And I hope to see that, because personally, I really love more of that kind of elegant line and something that exists more in nature in that way. So I'm really excited to see that. Also, the shapes to leaves, as far as the way that the leaf is self-cleaning and its mechanism, leaves would be a wonderful way to create a roof, because roofs on buildings right now, they basically hold all the snow, all the leaves, all of the debris from nature on top. And leaves have a way of just kind of slowly kind of tilting at different angles and shaking off the debris. So when you start to create roofs that are actually leaf shaped and have that flexibility to move like that, then you will start to see that your roofs don't basically sink in, tiles don't fall off. You know, this is the way of the future. No more getting on top of that roof and nailing down those old tiles anymore. You just have to go into the inspiration of nature and you will find that way, which is really exciting. So that was just a few examples for you there. The eco-friendly climate change type of living in harmony with nature is something that, of course, we can be inspired to construct our world with, in terms of our way of basically mimicking the way that flowers, such as the Arctic poppies, these are yellow flowers in the Arctic that have this beautiful designed petals that actually follow the rays of the sun, because they don't get much sun in the Arctic, of course. So they follow the rays and they tilt and they catch the sunlight at different angles. So there is a house, it's called the Gemini house in Austria, that has finally thought, hey, let's create solar panels that actually rotate and follow the sun. Because part of the problem with solar panels is that there's an issue with them lying flat and they might not always get the angle of the sun and absorb all the light. So rotating solar panels, just like how plants are able to rotate a little bit and change their angles a bit to catch the sunlight and in a perfect way, is exactly how solar panels should be all constructed, basically, to get the most efficient, optimal absorption of light. Another way that would be really helpful for solar panels, because this is the way of the future, definitely we are going into greener energy, so we're going to use the sunlight. The sun is the most powerful source of energy, basically, that humanity has. So why not use it? It's free. So the wonderful thing about solar panels is that they are starting to understand how a moth's eye works. So moths have this incredible ability to absorb all the light in the dark. They can absorb every single speck of light so that they can actually get around and see. They don't work in a way of sonar or a type of hearing like bats do. They actually do use their eyes, but they absorb every ounce of light that exists within the dark to see. So what they're doing now is they're using the technology of moth's eye, which is really about the structure of the eye and the way that the eye looks, to actually absorb all the light that it can. And they have shown the difference in terms of how much sunlight can be absorbed when moth's eye structure or technology is applied to a sheet of glass that creates the solar panel. So this is the way that you get more efficiency and more absorption from light, is actually learning from a creature that has existed for a long time and has actually learned how to absorb all the light. that is possible. The blue morpho butterfly is really exciting. This is this is one of my favorite little creatures on Earth. I love the blue morpho. The color is incredible. The way that the blue morpho, it has no pigment at all. It actually is not blue, but it only appears to us as blue because it has tiny little mirrors, basically. They're photonic crystals, and they are on the butterfly wing, and they reflect the light like bubbles do. So they create this beautiful, brilliant, iridescent blue. But it's not really blue. It's just how it appears to us because of the way that it hits the light spectrum, and the rays bounce back to our eyes and our observation. So I love blue morphos for this reason. And they have the secret to a very high advanced powered technology in terms of computers. So computers, as we were talking about before, they use crystals. So this is a photonic crystal, which can provide the secrets of photonic crystals that transmit light as an optical transistor. Transistors are what revolutionized computers, and electronics like computers have been actually used in this way to show that they can power a new information revolution of even faster, more energy efficient optical computing. So this is a way how we get even faster types of computers by using a more complex type of crystal. And that's how we get to this advanced quantum computers that basically we are looking to have in our world, which can be a more intelligent way of forming and bridging connections and networking in our world to create a more efficient type of lifestyle. Right now, it's important to know that humans are really just burning dead leaves and fossils, basically converting right now them into coal by fire to produce our energy of sunlight that's stored for millions of years, but it produces carbon dioxide in the air. So we know that we have an issue with this. We can't keep burning leaves and dead things from the ground that have stored sunlight. So the next phase is really to get direct sunlight without actually burning anything. So this is why it's so important to use solar panel technology and something even greater in terms of absorbing sunlight later on. The MOSI technology, the nanotechnology that basically is being used right now, is an example of natural nanotechnology. So there's an idea that nanotechnology, nanobots, is something that's, inorganic, doesn't come from nature, but actually we ourselves have nanobot technology within our bodies. Leaves actually have a natural nanobot technology. Leaves are really interesting because they have this beautiful way of basically providing oxygen for our world. And the way they do this is still kind of an enigma to scientists, but they're getting really close to understanding the structure of the leaf. Leaves create actually chemicals that are not electricity, because plants they don't have electricity in their organism like animals do. They actually use only chemicals. So the chemicals themselves actually have within their cell structure, they have these types of machine-like nanobots. This is the only way to describe them, because they work so efficiently like a machine in converting the energy, the gas exchange, in order to convert and make, hydrogen, oxygen, things like that. So what they can do is they can learn from the leaf in terms of how to basically create more hydrogen, and then hydrogen is what can create more fuel and energy for space exploration and things like that. But it's also about going into the direction of water in this way and bringing in this element of being closer to understanding the power of hydrogen and water, and how leaves are able to convert sugars, and create this for themselves as nutrients. So this is a nanobot technology that exists within the leaves. This is a nanobot technology that exists within our own DNA. Whenever we have a break in our DNA, a little tiny nanobot type of machine-like structure basically reconnects and copies the genetic material of a nearby strand into our DNA so that we never break or lose that DNA chain for a very long time. So they're able to use this type of way of looking at the DNA strands and understand how to create antibodies for the body. And this is what's going to help with more of a healthier type of way of being in terms of warding off viruses and disease in the future. So nature is key to helping us get rid of invaders in that way in terms of viruses. It's not so much about eating right, although that very much helps because you're ingesting the right type of vitamins and minerals for your body to produce the antibodies and to be able to have a strong immunity system. But it goes a little bit deeper in terms of DNA. The way that DNA works is that you have to have a way to actually create the messages within your body that you have an invader that's trying to manipulate your DNA, which is a virus. Viruses and bacteria in this way are actually trying to inject their DNA into yours. And this is how a virus works. So DNA has to get the message basically through its cellular structure in order to create the antibodies, all your T cells, your blood cells, basically to fight off the invaders. And this is your beautiful immune system and how it works. So we have this type of way of looking at the way that leaves work and the way that bacteria works. There's something called CRISPR that has this way. CRISPR is basically a sequencing of DNA that exists within billion-year-old organisms that scientists have just discovered in the early 2000s. And what they have discovered about this bacteria is it has a way of actually warding off other bacteria and have survived by an adaptive immune system. So humans can learn how to have that adaptive immunity as well when they study the way that bacteria has thrived. These simple organisms have thrived for billions of years. In many years, they have lived on this planet, and they have lived by basically warding off other invaders that are trying to manipulate its organism and change it into something else or destroy it. Ultimately, that's the goal of viruses. So once again, nature is the teacher of health as well. We can learn from these billion-year-old organisms that have CRISPR DNA sequence, and CRISPR is CRISPR, so no E. It's just an acronym to actually explain the way that the DNA works. But it is just a fascinating world out there of nature. And I just wanted to end with this, and we can just chat a little bit tonight. My last quote is really from Terence McKenna, saying that, this is what it is like when a species starts reaching for the stars. So what he was saying was that the Green Anarchy of merging back with nature and learning from it and using it as a way to understand and mimic nature, and then use that in our technology and our future inventions. This is kind of the stage that humanity is at before they explore space, moving into truly, really going further into basically expanding themselves on other planets or meeting other types of beings. I mean, it's endless possibilities, really, when we get to this place. And so we have reached this benchmark in humanity where engineers and many people in universities are already thinking this way. So I'm really happy to see this. It just really warms my heart. And if you don't pay attention to this, you could be afraid of technology because you could think of it in kind of a one-dimensional way, where you would think of it as just nuts and bolts and wires. And, that's how I used to think of it too, because I was afraid that humans weren't really putting in this inspiration of nature into technology, but they are. So when you go deeper into nature tech, it's called biotechnology, and understanding how it is mimicking nature that has existed for billions of years, then it fills you with a sense of optimism that humanity is going to evolve and thrive and really build the most beautiful world that you can possibly imagine, that will definitely act like a magical land, a magical world in which everything is very efficiently powered and is simultaneously moving, and it's instant in many ways. We have a way of moving at the pace of nature, and the pace of nature is very slow. And it's about natural selection and moving through millions of years of evolution. So we could allow nature to just take place over millions of years and watch that evolution take place. But we are in a place now where we are actually having the power to actually almost control time in a way where we can actually move at a faster pace and create the same type of evolutionary input and progress of life by just understanding how nature works. And all it took was to get a microscope and look deeper into nature on the nano level and understand it at that level. And this is incredible of what's going on. So I'm very excited. And this is really the only video I wanted to do about it right now. But I hope that this filled you with joy and optimism about looking into the future. I really encourage you to do your own research, and I will put some links in the description for you when this video is done so that you can kind of do your own research, and anything that I have found that has been really wonderful to learn about, I will put in the description for you so that you can enjoy this quest of knowledge on your own. That's really, really key here. And I just wanted to say that once humanity gets to a point where we can live more efficiently and we have ways of intelligent design machines that are gentle and that mimic nature in this way, when they start to power our world and work with us and basically move with us and do things for us, and when we start to have that, the most beautiful thing about this is that humans will not have to do these type of simple physical labors and jobs that can be quite, satisfying, but there's a level of living that exists when you no longer have to do that type of just remedial jobs to make a living. There's a level of existence that exists where you have more time in your life to pursue investigating the deeper secrets of the universe, consciousness itself, understanding the very nature of what lies on your earth with millions of species to investigate and research. So once you move in that way where you allow yourself time in your life to do that, that's when a species increases in terms of their potential of existence. And that's when all souls can live on a state where they're equal in intelligence and understanding. They have the same type of education, because there's not some people that just have to work for just to survive, but that it's a more equally distributed idea of what work is, because work becomes more about your creations, your art, what you're putting out there into the world as your unique light. This is where humanity can go. This is kind of the art that Tolkien was talking about and hinting about. The art of the elves is the elven magic, the way that they can create. This is the next step of humanity. And I am so excited for everyone. So I think we'll go to the chat now. Thank you all for joining. I'm so excited to have a new member, Jericho. Welcome. Welcome to the community. That's wonderful. Yeah, if anybody is interested, the Join Me on my channel is actually a private video list of basically exploring spiritual paths, different ways of reaching ascension and enlightenment that can be inspired by different cultures and different ideas of mysticism and spirituality. So if you are excited to do that with me, I'm happy to go on that journey with you all. More wind in. I won't be able to catch tonight. Oh, that's fine. That's wonderful about the the video here. You can just replay everything and listen at your own time. Squirrel, so nice to see you. I always used to say this too. I can't wait to hear about the magic perspective too. Well, now you know. It's like the magic of the wizards and the tales that we are drawn to. It's the magic of the elves, is our advanced technology and understanding how to actually harness the secrets of nature, secrets of energy in the universe. Oh, I'm so excited. CY, oh wow, just found this in time. Looking forward to this. Good. Well, I hope I lived up to your expectations, and I hope I made you excited for the future. Noreen, there's a Circle City, or I'm Thomas Jefferson. No, Circle City. Oh, you recommend Into the Microcosm YouTube channel. Oh, interesting. I have not. I'm not seeing that channel. Thank you for putting that down there, Noreen. I really appreciate it. Noreen, we are already manipulating magic objects with energetic force, aka electricity. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much we are. I mean, there's different forces in the universe that we are able to use, and electricity is one of them. Strong nuclear force, weak force, electromagnetism, which is electricity. There are different ways that we can use these forces of nature in order to create, and we are getting to that point. It's really exciting, actually, if you stay on top of physicists and you want to learn more about the laws of energy. Physicists have actually discovered a fifth form of energy, basically, and it's because they have discovered molecules or quarks or these different types of smaller quantum energy particles that are moving at a different speed and a different way and a different pattern, and they can't quite understand what it is, but it's a lot stronger than other forces. So it's really exciting to see what's happening right now in the physics community too, because while we have biologists looking at the internal structure of nature and the behavior of animals and observing nature at that very level, then we have the physicists that are actually going into the quarks and the quantum level of the universe and understanding, the pulling apart matter basically at the atomic level. And we just have to be careful because, like I said, if we're going to do it for weapons or destruction, that we will destroy ourselves. This is extremely powerful energy that we're using right now, or that we're getting into. So yes, I am all for disarming all nuclear weapons. I just wanted to put that out there. I think that we should never have any nuclear weapons. There's no need. And once a species kind of evolves to a state of higher consciousness, they no longer war with each other in that way. There still might be arguments and disagreements, and there still might be even killings, but it's done on an individual basis of individual weapons, not destroying an entire ecosystem, dropping a bomb on your home planet. It's a travesty for the nuclear bombs to even exist. They should not be rushing in competition to do that. Merlin, consciousness is the key. Remember, an entangled photon, no matter how far apart from its counterpart, it will act simultaneously with the other entangled photon, even on the other side of the galaxy. Yes, the non-locality and the quantum entanglement, it is really a proof that we are connected, that there is a interconnection between all, energetic matter and energy that we are. And it's just important for, I think, scientists to see that connection. Those of us that are spiritualists and we already kind of see the world in that way and the universe in that way, we can understand that oneness. And this started to happen in like the 60s. What was really great is that there were physicists that were also kind of hippies in the way where they were experimenting with consciousness, either with psychedelics or just through meditation practices. And they started to actually connect physics, quantum, mechanics with the nature of consciousness and awareness. I would suggest to keep going down that pathway, because that's what's going to give you the answers that humanity is looking for in terms of trying to find the unified theory of everything and why everything connects and synchronization and all of these types of things that happen to us. And sometimes we're just left with, just a feeling of awe. But there's a way to get to a deeper level of awe when you kind of understand what's going on. The most wonderful thing about the universe is like a fractal, where every time that you gain a benchmark of knowledge and you learn something in a species, you learn even more. You can never stop learning. And this universe is just incredible. Multiverse, actually, the different dimensions that exist. I get so excited thinking about the vastness of consciousness itself in that way, but the vastness of space, just in terms of physical space, is it's overwhelming. It's wonderful to think of. So I'm glad that you left that comment there, Merlin. Thank you. Hi, Mary Preston. Well, now you know about the fairies, understanding everything about a plant in the way, they work, and they all work so differently. They all have different structures and different qualities and different attributes. So when you get to the heart of, the core of nature, that's when you have the fairy knowledge. Nurin, we see it, but it is ignored for what it really is. Oh, the machine elves. Yes, the machine elves. Oh, yeah, it's a really interesting phenomena that some people have had. Now, there was a study that not all people see machine elves, which was interesting, because I always kind of thought that. I thought that, you would basically see the unraveling of this material world in a way that would fit your perception of it already. So Terence McKenna, the Celtic man that he was already very much into nature. He was already into understanding fairy tales on a deeper level, like J.R.R. Tolkien did. So to me, when he took, DMT and he had that experience with the machine elves and he talked about this, it was really a reflection of his perspective, basically, of the nature of existence. And it's very deeply connected to nature in that way. And I agree with him. And I saw wisdom within that of showing where humanity was going with machines and with nature. Put it together, and what do you have? You have the machine elves behind the very fabric of the space. And maybe they're smiling and applauding humanity by finally getting to this point. So maybe that's what my dream was about. They were laughing and giggling. I experience this playfulness with fairy because to me, it's a sense of freedom. And that's what humanity is really searching for. Every soul is looking for a way to just be more free, less tethered to the material expectations of the world, but more free to explore consciousness and to explore thought and art and create, because we are creative beings. We are reflections of creation itself. So let us get to that point. And that's freedom. That's truly freedom. What we have right now in society is a budding society that is learning how to become more free, but we're still not truly liberated from our societal laws of work and the things that we have set for ourselves in terms of how our society works. But if we mimic the way that nature works, then we will be more happy, more free to do what we please. I really do believe that. CY, magic and science come to merge at a point. Quantum physics is definitely a good example of this. Yes, definitely. Where, I mean, you have already the computers are working faster because they're tuning in to that that frequency of energy. Basically, they're working faster, and that's almost like magic. Where you just turn on your screen and all of a sudden it works. And you can imagine that if they start using computers with more powerful crystals, well, then they might just be connected to your very own consciousness itself. Well, mushrooms work like that too. The mycelium underneath the ground of the forest, they are known as the net of the forest. So are the tree roots as well. So when our internet system and our way of connecting the world mimics the connection of mycelium and mushrooms and tree roots, this is where we'll have a great connection that is, not so scary, more organic, more part of us, more in collaboration with us in a way. That's how I see it. I am Nico L. Where are there mutants in Hiroshima? So you have to do your research on this. There are genetic mutations. You could definitely see it. There are tons of accounts of different types of generations of people that are experiencing genetic mutations and birth defects in that way. And that is because of the radiation that exists within that area still. That nuclear energy is so strong, and it does have the power to manipulate and change DNA. That's another thing that humans have to worry about, manipulation of DNA in that way, where it's not under your control, but it's actually a genetic mutation done by the energy of destruction of war would not be good. It's not moving into a different path, the energy of peace or harmony or improving or progression. It's done in war. Ty, yes, planes always remind me of birds. Well, the newer generations are going to probably remind us of more birds. And this is really what's going to create more efficient flight. So it's really exciting what's going to happen. And we might get our flying cars, our flying vehicles. Merlin, there have been reported mutations from Fukushima. Yep, it wasn't a bomb, but meltdown. Yep, that's what radioactive materials can do to cells and DNA. Yes, and Hiroshima as well. Yeah. Yes, the nuclear reactor and how that, yes, and it's also creating problems within the ocean too. Yes, we need to, it's okay to use nuclear energy, but to use it as a bomb to drop on your home, it's just not wise at all. And that's something that I think humanity is learning and realizing, because there is a nuclear agreement that is holding nations in check, basically, which I think is really the right direction. There has to be an agreement to stop the construction of nuclear weapons or to never, really use them. I think that's really important. That's really the only thing that really can threaten our existence in terms of, destroying a whole planet, a whole species in that way, except a meteor and other types of natural disasters. But in terms of our own, it could be nuclear war, nuclear weapons. Yeah, they are really bad. Nothing is more powerful than the all. Yeah. And that all is that life stream that flows within nature and within the whole cosmos. So when we start to harness that understanding of nature on a very deeper level, that's when we merged back with the all. In my opinion, that's about merging back in unity and oneness with our origins. Yeah. Renee, Lothlorien feels like a vision of the Lemurian Telos. Yeah, I could see that. Yep, Telos is supposed to be definitely like a Palladian community and civilization. I can see that for sure. I definitely resonate with Lemuria and even Atlantis too. But I think that that's exactly the vision that we have, is terms of we're getting kind of another chance to rebuild Atlantis and Lemuria. But where are we going to go? You know, are we going to destroy it like it happened with that island that sunk? And J.R.R. Tolkien actually had what he called the Atlantis haunting. So it's really interesting because he actually had dreams about this giant wave that was coming. He was really kind of obsessed with Atlantis. And so he made Numenor, this Elven, actually it was a human city or civilization that was actually in collaboration with elves. And elves actually would teach them elven magic there and things like that. So what eventually happened was the idea of pride. So it's kind of a similar story to Atlantis, and I think that it inspired his story later on of Numenor, that only really appears in the Lost Tales and Silmarillion. You don't see it in Lord of the Rings, but it's about his the time before the Lord of the Rings, like how basically Lord of the Rings started happening. So I really highly recommend the Silmarillion. It's a really great one. And also the Fall of Gondolin and all those other books that he wrote that are based on the pathway before Middle Earth. And I think that's why I focused on J.R.R. Tolkien so much on my channel, is because I knew that he was kind of in sync with that vision of where humanity can go and where we can all kind of awaken ourselves to, if we ourselves love the elves, if we want to be part of the Green Anarchy and help humanity move into that direction of never forgetting nature. And as we move into the technological age, we incorporate the intelligence of nature. It's really important to do that. And it will increase our consciousness too. Yeah, it's really important to do, I think. Let's go to some other comments here. So, John Maury, I've had the same vision for permaculture infrastructure. Wonderful. Yes, this has everything to do with agriculture and the way that we're going to, put food on our tables. We really need to follow the intelligence of nature. This gets into the realm of GMOs. I'm still kind of understanding that basically the GMOs are trying to mimic what nature's doing, but giving the best traits. So it's basically what farmers have done by choosing the best traits and breeding them into crops over, generations of farming. So scientists are speeding up that process of natural selection in that way. But it's important to also allow the natural seeds to exist too. But I do believe that the GMOs, if they really are done in an intention to actually have the best traits possible, they must be done in a variety so that we have that biodiversity, because biodiversity is really important to an ecosystem. Once we breed out a certain type of species or organism or plant, then we start to see the whole ecosystem actually die. And that's how humans can start to live too, is when they realize that when they hurt one another, they're actually hurting the entire ecosystem. So, like I said, nature is ultimately our spiritual teacher, our teacher for infrastructure on this planet and how we can develop a highly advanced species that lives in more abundance together. So I'm really excited about the future, just observing that this is happening in universities, that those that have the responsibility and the way to actually put out their inventions into the world are already thinking this way. So you just have to know where to look. Otherwise, you could be very afraid of where technology is heading. If you don't see that what's happening actually, how are they actually being inspired to be designed? And of course, there are going to be robotic, corporations that are not using nature. And so it's just about being aware of which ones are, which ones aren't, and understanding that there's a lot more that are, because when it comes down to it, being able to use the wires and the electricity to move in a way that you need it to and have the artificial intelligence, well, it needs to come from the inspiration of the human mind, or it needs to come from the inspiration of the way animals behave and how plants behave too. And that's really the best way for our world to have advanced robotics and artificial intelligence. I really do believe that. Astro Kid, I just want to say that your videos gave me clarity on why my love for nature and animals runs deep. The knowledge you have about the Fae and is immaculate, and I'm glad you're sharing that on YouTube. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I'm really excited to just like take this journey with you all and just to go further, deeper into nature. I mean, this is on a level where it is beyond just surface understanding, and we're getting there together. And it is really the knowledge of the elves and knowledge of the fairies. So in many ways, we're getting that knowledge back. Those of us who are kind of remembering and awakening and bringing that back. And I think that that's what the fairies actually really represent, is understanding nature at the true core and understanding how to live completely in harmony with all elements. And nature never wastes, there's no waste. There's an intelligence there that we can learn from. And I just get so touched when I think about it. It's just a very deep connection that I think humans are awakening to, if they go in the direction of nature. Taehin, hello. Oh, I'm so glad you were able to catch the live. Yeah, I did a little bit later tonight, so I'm glad. Danny Biettel, arrived late to the live stream, but you're so right. As much of advanced science, especially pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, are derived from natural resources, nature is always key. Yes, it's true. I mean, we don't have to be afraid of the pharmaceutical companies that are using nature as an inspiration, because they have the key to our health. And it's really important to see that. Pharmaceutical companies and those that are going into that direction are not using chemicals that are going to harm us, but they're actually being inspired by the way that nature chemicals work to basically make the body better, the human body better, with its elements and vitamins. But it's also about the way that the body is building up an immune system. And so along with the vitamins that you might get from different pharmaceutical companies that are creating that, and you could go homeopathic too. You can get vitamins from a natural source without being in a little capsule. You're also getting some of the vaccine companies that are also employing nature's secret, through CRISPR and understanding how this organism works. It's really beautiful, what's happening. And it will give us the keys to eliminate diseases, not only just eating better and healthier, but also understanding how DNA actually works and how to actually take out the codes of the different types of genetic mutations and things like that. It's really incredible what's happening. We're getting really close to understanding how to make our lives a lot happier and a lot more full of peace and less struggle. It's really exciting. Janet, oh, you're so welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm glad I could put together this presentation for you and just share everything. Like I said, it's just little glimmers of how deep that engineers and inventions are going right now. But I encourage you to look. It's out there, and it is really exciting what's happening. So we really have, to me, I can honestly say that we have reached this benchmark, that we are progressing into this possible path. And we do have some really wonderful workers out there who are doing it for us, so we can appreciate them all those who work in these fields of greener technology and biochemistry, science and architecture that's inspired by nature, arcology, and different types of nature tech. You are the workers in this, and so this is something that I appreciate you for. So thank you so much for all of your service, if any of you ever work in those fields. And I hope that many others are inspired too, because this is how we are going to power our world. This is how we're going to have a beautiful world. It is going to be inspired by nature, and it will look like, the realms of our dreams and imaginations. I really do believe this can be a reality. I really do. See, just as spirits can choose to inhabit human bodies, can spirits also choose to inhabit robots? I don't think they can. No, because it's a top-down form of creation. So we are the creative beings. We are the consciousness. We are the awareness. And we are creating something. So it's from top down, if that makes sense. Our creations are not on the equal level with us. They are simply our manifestations and extensions of ourself. And that's kind of what robots will become. So no, I don't think that we have anything to worry about in that way. Lawanda Din, hello, my Elven sister. I send you much love and light. You are a blessing to me. Oh, I send you back Elven light blessings to you. I'm so happy you were celebrating with me tonight. Nicole, has mandala affected you? The mandala effect is that different people are experiencing different realities, and they are because, all right, I'm almost 40. I have been working on this path for my whole life, through a process of healing and awakening. I've gone through a lot of struggle and a lot of pain, but I've awakened through spiritual discipline in many ways, not in a harsh way. I'm not really hard on myself in that way, but about expansion of consciousness and knowledge. That has been my path. So the reason why I experience the world in this way and see this is because I am experiencing life on this level of dimension of consciousness and reality. And that's kind of how consciousness works. It is shaped to our awareness. And our awareness is shaped and molded by our path choices and what we do in our life to bring us onto a path of knowledge, a path of seeking. And for a very long time, I wasn't. I was just in fairyland in a way where I wasn't really in control of my life in terms of understanding myself and understanding nature and universe in this way. And I am just awakening to something much, much more powerful within all of us. And I feel it very deeply. And I hope that I can continue to inspire that, to go down this path. To me, that is Elven wisdom, is the ultimate goal of knowledge seeking, not for denomination, not for control or manipulation, but for simply to know thyself. To know thyself, to have the final gnosis of knowing where we all come from, where all of us came from, why we are here, and to experience an expansion of life, of love, of unity, of harmony. And the way that I have awakened is truly understanding this on a very deep intuitive level, is that we can only get there when we return back to nature, when we truly understand it at the tiniest nano levels, and we understand how energy works in this way. We then become the manifestors that we have always wanted to be, and we can create this magic in the world. And I see it, and I get so emotional because I see it so deeply, and I know that it's there. And I'm really excited for it. But yes, the mandala effect is that different people have experienced different things, but it is about your perspectives, and your perspectives shape that reality. They have found that about quantum mechanics. The way that light particles move, the way that we perceive the world, is that the light particles actually are affected by the observer. They actually choose to go a different direction. They choose, I'm talking about molecules, like actual particles of matter actually choose to go in a different direction by your observation alone. There's nothing set in this course of this universe. There's nothing set in stone. It is all in your power of perception, of power of awakening and expanding your mind and consciousness to see the truer nature of reality, the beautiful spirit that you all are, and this cosmic universal consciousness that we are part of, that we can actually tap into when we connect to nature in its organic, pure state. And that is what we are. We are pure light. We are pure consciousness and awareness. And if we never forget that, then none of our creations, none of anything that we ever create, we will never have to fear. And it will be a beautiful future for all. I think that's all I wanted to say. Leave your comments, everything down below. Much love to you all. I am so excited for all souls to experience more efficiency. And I just want to let you know deeply, I've had a near-death experience. I understand consciousness on a really energetic level, very heart-connected in this place. I'm letting you know that you work towards this future now together. You will experience it in your next incarnation. You will experience a more futuristic, beautiful world, a planet. Those of us that come back to Earth, that want to experience Earth again, will experience something like this. You have the power to do that. You can go anywhere in the universe, but whatever you're tied to and pulled back to, your consciousness will come back to. That's how my near-death experience worked. I was not done. I was pulled back into my body. So don't fear if you're not going to experience this now, you don't think, because you'll think, oh, I'm not going to see this anyway. Well, you will. You will. If you are dreaming of it, believing it, you're part of the construction of it, you're going to see it. You're going to see it. Absolutely. So blessings, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you soon on the next channel, next video. I'm just all discombobulated now. I'm really excited. All right. Namaste, everybody. And Namarye, which also means farewell with joy in J.R. Tolkien's Elvish. So take care, everyone.